recent travels to Indonesia and what I did and what happened and all the different things that I've learnt. And so I'll start off with telling you why I was in Indonesia first. So most of you know that I work for the National Council of Churches in Australia, and I run the youth department for them. And in my role as the youth secretary, that's my title, I was invited to attend a conference in Medan, Indonesia, and the conference was called the School for Ecumenical Leadership Formation. And it was ran by the Christian Conference of Asia, which is an organisation that tries to promote and to develop dialogue between the different churches in the Asian region. And so what they did is they invited youth representatives from every country in Asia and one person from Africa. So we had people from India, we had people from Taiwan, Korea, Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, so everywhere over Asia, and New Zealand and Australia, and a special guest from South Africa. So we all got together and we spent 3 weeks of looking at different issues, things like globalization, feminism, all different types of issues that are affecting the Asian region. One of the things that I got to do was make some really, really good contacts with the people who organised the Christian Conference of Asia, and they sent us it was so good because I met them, and you know, they say, oh, what church do you go to? And I say MCC, and most people don't know what MCC is in Asia, so they go, oh, is that an Anglican church or is it a Catholic church? And I've got to explain to them that it's a Protestant church and we're our own denomination and all this kind of stuff. But the organiser of the Christian Conference of Asia, he knew what MCC was, and he said, oh, it's great to have you with us. And then he gave us this hymnal, which they've published and everything else. And I'll just read to you what it says, because this is so important to make those connections. Like, I was over there on National Council of Churches work, but I was able to use that opportunity for MCC work, and which hopefully in the future will lead to something really, really great. But he wrote to us, "Dear Jonathan and my brothers and sisters at the MCC, warm greetings from the Christian Conference of Asia. This is with best wishes and many blessings. May God be with you always in love and in grace. Rakesh Peter Jas, Joint Executive Secretary, Christian Conference of Asia." So that's a really, really exciting thing, I think, in terms of developing relationships and networks and contacts and all of that kind of stuff. But what I want to do is share with you, most importantly, is some of the experiences I've had and some of the things that I've learned. Now, I was staying in a place called North Sumatra, that's the province, and it's an island. It's hard there's no map, but it's over here, and it's near Singapore, and kind of, it goes like that, and then there's the main kind of Java and the different places, and then there's all the little islands and stuff over here. Roughly, okay? That's just a rough. But I was over here, and on one of the most productive and in terms of natural resources, it has a lot of natural resources. Archer is above North Sumatra. I was just below Archer, and that has all of the oil, and they're having all of their little fights and stuff between the Muslims and the Americans and all that kind of stuff. So I was just below there, and we were staying on a mountain. It took about 3 hours to drive up the mountain, and we were staying halfway up this mountain. And I want to tell you, one of the things that happens on this mountain is, so you go up this road and it's windy and it's only big enough for one lane and all this kind of stuff, but beside the road is a waterway. It's just a little bit of cement, and it's about this big. Now that is the water supply for all of the people that live on this mountain. Okay, just this one little thing like this. And it starts at the top of the mountain where there's a spring, and then it comes down probably about 150 kilometres all the way to the bottom. And that's where people get their drinking water from, their clothing water from, that's where they bathe, that's where their animals drink from. And they don't collect the water and take it back to their homes, they use it there in the little things. So at the top the water's nice and fresh and clean and everything else, but you get to halfway or 3/4 of the way down and it's this yucky milky colour. And you see people there washing their vegetables in that milky coloured water, or having their baths in that water. The animals, you know, chickens are playing on it and all this kind of stuff. So this is one of the most fruitful islands in Indonesia, so I'm told. Jonathan, is that right? Yes? Oh, good. I'm not wrong. But let me tell you something, right? So they don't have fresh water. One of the things that we didn't have in our place was fresh running water. It was dirty water. We had to boil it and all that, you know, treat it and all that kind of stuff before we could drink it. We couldn't even brush our teeth with the water, okay? But at the top of this mountain is a water bottle factory, a bottled water factory. And this factory uses the water that comes from the mountain, bottles it, and then sells these bottles of water all over the world. Nice fresh bottles, not Pete's Ridge Springs, but another company, but nice fresh bottled water. And the people on that mountain don't have access to fresh water. But an international company can come in, set up a factory, take their drinking water and sell it and make a huge profit. So we get to drink water that looks like this, that's nice and fresh, etc, 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 whilst other people in the same area are drinking water that looks like this. Now, isn't that disgusting? But that's true, trust me, that's true. That's exactly what they're drinking. And they boil that so that it's healthy, but it's still that same colour. You know, and you see the women walking down the road with buckets, you know, they do all that stuff, putting things on their heads and all that kind of stuff. And it's just disgusting. I've called this sermon 2080. Has anybody heard that statistic, 2080? 20% of the world's people have 80% of the world's resources. And we are in that 20%. Now, this is the world's population, okay, about 6 billion people. Now, these 4 people, just take a step over here. So we'll leave Jonathan on his own. Now, these 4 people represent the underdeveloped, the third world, or the developing nations. So we've got countries like China and India, which together have over 2 billion people. Okay? We've got countries like Pakistan, Indonesia, Africa, okay, all of these poor nations that don't have anything, and maybe some Eastern Bloc countries, you know, that are left over from the USSR and all that kind of stuff. So this is the majority of the world's people. Mostly Asians and Africans. Okay, now over here, Jonathan here, only 20% of the world. And he represents England, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, wealthy Asian countries like Japan, Taiwan, Korea. He also represents France, Germany, Italy, some of those more wealthier countries as well. But he's only 20% of the world's population. Now, already you can see who rules the world, who has the power, the political power, the military might, all of that kind of stuff. But he's the minority. He is the minority. Now, let me show you something else when it comes to the world's resources. Now, these people here, they don't have access to fresh water. They don't have access to healthcare. They don't have access to clean food or anything like that. They don't have access to education, social support, or anything like that. This guy over here, he's got everything. Absolutely everything, all right? Now, more. Who represents Africa? Okay. Great looking African here. But Rick represents Africa. Now, Africa has the highest population of HIV people who are HIV positive, all right? Now, Africa cannot afford to provide HIV medication to the people who have HIV/AIDS, right? But Germany, over here, a couple of years ago produced tons and tons and tons of HIV medicine, but they found out that this medicine had disastrous side effects. It made them very, very ill.